Welcome everyone to the last chapter of Benedict's story. I'm so excited to reveal the ending to you guys, and I really hope you enjoy this chapter with me. My brother Spiham, who made all the artworks for book 1 of AI Dungeon Adventure, has also made a beautiful artwork for this chapter. So make sure to look out for this amazing artwork at some point in the chapter. You can find his free-to-read comic at Patreon/Spiham and his other artworks on Patreon/Spiham or Instagram/Spiham. I would really recommend you check him out. He's a great artist and I really appreciate him making these artworks for my story. This episode will also feature 2 written segments, so look out for those too. And without any further ado, guys, let's begin. Okay guys, we are back. Last time we met these skeletal figures together with Winter, the girl from the woods, and that's where we left off. So let's continue. We should try to fight them. That's my initial reaction. So let's just throw an instant fire potion on the skeletal figures. And let's see what happens. You throw the fire potion on the figures, and they begin to quickly burst into flames. They scream, making a piercing noise that makes you wince. Oh, fuck, that's unnerving. This story is getting more and more disturbing by each chapter, guys. Like, the last one with the gray deer and everything. Just so disturbingly informationless, you know? Descriptionless. And it makes it so weird and, unnerving. But that's my intention with this story. Like, I love it. The noise seems to anger Richard, who begins running towards the figures, slash them with his sword. Come on, you shout. Okay. You manage to catch Richard's attention and finally get to the border of the desert. The trio managed to run the last few meters to the border, falling over with exhaustion. You take a moment to catch your breath and suddenly realize how thirsty you are. We need to find water. Okay. Yeah, that's that's actually good work from the AI, so let's just continue and see if it got any more good responses. We don't have time for this, Richard complains, though you can tell he's interested in the subject. That's a weird way to tell that a guy is thirsty. Though you can tell he's interested in the subject of drinking water. Okay, thank you for showing us the way to the desert, Winter. You may go back to the woods if you wish to do that. The thing is, I'm kind of asking Winter to leave because she's not supposed to become a party member, but more like a character that we meet along the way. Thank you, is all Winter says in response, before she walks back into the woods towards the place where we fought the giant insect. We never fought a giant insect, but okay. Richard looks at you expectantly. Okay, my comrade. We are finally here. Now let's try to get to a city, shall we? Okay, and Now I'm gonna add a written scenario, so enjoy. You and Richard set out on your journey across the large desert. You have sand up to your knees, and your clothes are filled with sand grains that itch on your cold skin. In front of you are waves and waves of sand with a dark sky above it, lit up by a large and round full moon. It's cold, but the struggle of walking through the heavy sand makes your temperature stable. Richard, how far is it until we reach a city, a village, a pond, anything at all? You ask Richard. What? The city's right there, he says, pointing at nothing. Man, there is nothing over there, you say, as Richard looks beyond confused. Oh, what? Really? Stop messing with me, Benedict, he yells, and you both start to argue before collapsing on the cold sand. Hours later, you wake up to the strong sunlight burning on your skin. Oh, we're still out here, huh? Richard does not respond to your statement, but looks at the horizon with an exhausted expression. You get up and continue your journey through the deserts. After walking for a solid 2 hours, you don't even notice the annoying sound anymore. You feel dazed, out of this world. You can't see clearly, and everything is just one big massive blur. As you stare at the endless lengths of golden sand, you notice something strange. You see a man with white hair and red armor, riding on a horse in the distance. Behind him is a girl with red hair riding close up to him. You think nothing more of it and just imagine that it was yet another hallucination. You keep on walking. It's starting to get dark again and Richard is nearly falling over, ready to let the desert take his life. Richard, we got to keep on moving. I can't even see anything, you say, as your vision gets more and more blurry. Suddenly you stop and notice that you walked headfirst into a large camel. You pat its head, imagining it to be yet another hallucination, and keep on walking past it. That felt really real, you say, as you look at your hand covered in camel hair. Your eyes widen, and you look back at the camel. It was indeed real, and you get really confused. On top of it sits a man with a long black beard and tan skin. He looks like a local Telemarian. Are you real? You got to help us, you say, while pulling on his leg. He does not seem to understand you, but yells to his 2 other comrades to help you and Richard up on their camels. As the men jump down to help the both of you up, you feel your body let go, and you pass out. You wake up inside a tiny village called Ilthira, located on the northern side of the desert. You lie in some sort of tent with Richard a couple feet away from you. You pick up a water canteen and chug down all the water you can manage to drink in one go. In front of you is a bowl filled to the edge with fruits of all kinds. Even tulling berries, your favorites. After eating 3 entire servings of fruit, you wake Richard up and give him plenty of food and water. The man from earlier enters the tent. You stare at each other as Richard starts to say, "Thank you for..." He does not understand us, you interrupt him. You start making hand signs to express your gratitude towards him taking you here. He nods at you and points at himself saying, "Adur." You tell him your names and again thank him for saving the both of you, and he leaves the tent. You sit down thinking of your next objective on this journey. You need to find a cure for the plague. That's why you're here in the first place. You open your satchel and pull out your medical equipment. Now it's time to experiment. Okay guys, so we are back, and now I put the scenario into the AI system and we're ready to experiment with Benedict's medical equipment. We gotta find a cure for this plague, and the only thing we know is that creating the plague, you need to pour kyolic oil on a human and set him on fire. So if we can think of something to deflect the kyolic oil reaction, you pull out a flask and some different herbs and minerals. Okay. So let's start easy here. Let's just gather our equipment and try to think of something that could work. Okay, so kyolic is an oil. You put the vial in your bag and prepare a new mixture. You don't remember all the symptoms, but you think that the previous patient might have been poisoned. Okay, retry. You carefully mix a few different herbs in a flask with some alcohol and put the flask in a small cage stand you made with your gear. Okay, so we are like brewing a base for the potion, I guess. Think of what we could use to deflect the kyolic oil reaction causing the plague to spread. Richard has the same idea, but since he's got heavier gear, he's able to make a different reaction. What? Okay, retry. The flask seems to be the best choice. You've never used this thing before in a real situation, but it's supposed to be very good at retaining heat for extended periods of time. Okay, so we gotta use our flask for the content or liquid or what we're gonna make. So what you're gonna do is you pick up some Ingmar seeds and start to crush them in your mortar. So let's do that as like a base for the mixture. You turn your sights to the Amazing Kingdom. Okay, retry. You hold the flask in your hand and look at Richard. He nods and holds up 2 fingers to indicate that he wants you to mix the ingredients thoroughly. Okay. You crush the seeds to powder and adds some of your own kyolic oil and put it into a flask. So now we have like a thick kyolic oil version, and then we have to bind it with something that can nullify the effect of the kyolic oil and make a curing reaction instead of a spreading, like plague spreading reaction. You mix the powder with your hands, which are calloused and scarred from a life of working with his hands. Okay, that's true. You've no doubt you've broken more than a few mixing flasks over the years. Yeah. Okay. You proceed to boil some Kedar roots together with belling flower petals and make a soup out of it. So it's drinkable, you know. And the Kedar roots are used to cure like poisonous wounds. So with this we can maybe nullify the effect of the oil. You carefully screw on the top of the flask and place it in the cage table. Richard is hungry. You hand him a flask of the potion with an encouraging nod. Okay. Now you mix the soup and thick kyolic oil together to create a curing effect and nullifying the plague spreading from the oil. If that made any sense. I'm not a chemist, but you know, I gotta improvise. It takes about a day to cure. You need to drink it overnight, then wash the oil. No, retry. It's meant to cure the area, not myself. Okay, undo. You let it brew overnight, and you and Richard goes to sleep. Okay, so now we have our mixture, and we let it brew overnight and go to sleep and check on it in the morning. The next morning, you're up and ready to brew another batch of the potion. Richard wakes up just in time for you to finish brewing it. You hand him the flask and he eagerly downs it. Okay, don't down it. That's dangerous. So you hand him the flask. Now keep this flask safe, and I'll keep mine safe. That way we have your flask as a backup if anything goes wrong. Okay, so then we have 2 flasks with the mixture, and now we have one of them and Richard's got the other, so if anything goes wrong we can always use his. Richard nods before drinking it. No, you're not supposed to drink it. Richard nods. Okay, so now that we have the presumed cure, we should head over to where the virus or the plague started spreading. So we now need to travel a bit further into the desert and find the city or the village where it all started, and it's called Shadhadja. Okay, so we're gonna inform Richard about this. Now we need to take this cure with us to the village where the virus started spreading, also known as the village of Shadhad. Sorry, I'm just gonna look at my notes, so I write a bit slower. Shadhadja. Okay. You say, now we need to take this cure with us to the village where the virus started spreading, also known as the village of Shadhadja. Richard seems to like this plan. The only thing that worries you is that Richard doesn't know about the plague. Well, he does, but he doesn't know, like, a lot of info about it. Let's ask... what was his name? The guy who saved us. Adur for some camels. It takes a day, but Adur eventually gives in and starts to train you in archery and fighting techniques. Okay, no, undo. We're not asking for a training montage. Richard is a little hesitant, but you can tell he really wants to leave this place. Richard steps outside, and after a few moments he comes back in. Okay. You asked him? He nods. A few minutes later, Adur walks into the tent with 2 young male dromedaries by his side. Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Adur. We will deliver them back to you by tomorrow. Well, he doesn't understand, but I can try to make some sign language which can replace my vocal language. Adur nods and leaves. Richard takes out a small pad of paper and a pen from his pocket. Pen? We don't have pens. We're still in the medieval age. You know what? Redo, and I will edit this out. Nice. Okay. You and Richard gets on mounts the dromedaries and set out for the village of Shahadja. Let's go, guys. The final step of the journey. Multiple choice. You ride on and are soon out of sight of Kaldic City, or you ride for a few hours until you're near the village. You see a large oblong white building with black shutters on the window. You see figures moving about in the building, but nobody comes to the entrance. You know what? I'm not happy with any of them, but I'll take that one. And I will edit this part out. It seemed kind of modern, the description of the village, so I'll remove that and keep this. You ride for a few hours until you're near the village. Okay, look at the village. You see a large village made up of many tents and small huts. Several people, men, women, and children can be seen milling around outside. Okay, so the city is actually abandoned now. So I'm gonna add, after the plague hit, the city is now abandoned. Okay, and now we're heading into our last written segment of the story. Enjoy. As you enter the village, you pull up your newly made cure in your flask. You open it and look at the boiling liquid inside. Then, something blocks the sun. You look up to see a white crow as it morphs into the beautiful, magnificent man, Theodosius Fleming. He lands on the ground, watching you and Richard from afar. He takes a step in your direction. You managed to get this far. My reason for interest in the two of you was indeed valuable. If only you were a part of my angels, you could have accomplished so much more. Alas, you are humans, filth to the gods, and for that reason your journey will end here. You turn to Richard and say, Richard, I will throw the potion on the ground. I don't know what will happen, but just make sure that you get to safety. This so-called angel will soon reach heaven, you yell, but you are pushed back by Fleming as he grabs the potion. He crushes it in his hand. No hope for the wicked, Doctor, Master Fleming says, and gives you a wide grin. Was this really it? The hope of stopping the plague ended here on this sad note? Richard comes to the rescue and stabs Fleming in the chest, but Fleming pulls it out and pulls out his scythe. Richard strikes, Fleming deflects. Fleming strikes, and surprisingly, Richard deflects. The scythe is going left and right, up and down, but Richard managed to barely deflect it in time, until the last swing hits him across the nose, cutting his nose bridge open, leaving a large wound on his face. And with this, Richard falls to the ground. Master Fleming takes a step in your direction, placing the scythe at your throat, ready to cut it open at any second. False mankind, he says, but is quickly interrupted by Richard. False God, he says, as he gets up on his feet with his potion in hand. Now, Benedict, I have repaid my debt. He points the liquid on Fleming and proceeds to drink it. Richard, what are you doing? You scream, but Richard continues to drink the potion bottoms up. He drops the empty flask on the ground as he shakes and trembles. He falls to his knees as his eyes and mouth begin to light up with some sort of green sunlight. For the last time, Richard looks to his right. He looks up. He looks down. He smiles. Then he slaps his knees in laughter. and then he gives you a huge grin, before he's engulfed in light and lets out a huge explosion that sends you and Fleming flying into the nearby houses. You wake up to the smell of ash and remains as a green fog is purifying the city. Did it work? Where is Richard, you say, as you look around confused. In front of you is Master Fleming yet again, only this time his clothing is gone. He is surrounded by demons. They are tearing his armor and clothes apart. One of the demons walks over to him saying, "Your plan failed, we don't need you anymore." "I am glad," Master Fleming responds, looking at the sky with a delightful smile across his face. His so-called angels proceed to tear his skin apart. Everything he ever idealized turned out to be a lie, blinded by his own naivety. With the plague gone, he's no longer needed to the demons, or angels, as he called them. As they tear him apart bit for bit, his magnificent crow wings grow out of his body and he starts to levitate to the sky. Now, the divine grace, my angels have finally loosened my chains. Let the harbinger's soul be your feast. After Fleming dissolves into nothing, the demons leave. You walk over to the town center only to see Fleming's cape on the ground, stainless and pure. You grab it and bring it with you. You see something further down the streets and walk over to examine it. It's an empty armor, who once belonged to a knight, with a blue falcon embedded into the breastplate. You certainly did your duty, Richard, you say, looking up at the sky. You see a blue falcon flying above you, and it disappears into the horizon. And that, everyone, is the end of Benedict's journey. Thank you so much for watching and all the support I've gotten throughout this side story. All the memes on my Discord server, they're great. I love them. And yeah, I hope you enjoy this side story and Benedict and Richard as characters, and Fleming of course. But yeah, thank you so much. Consider subscribing and liking this video, and check out my brother's Patreon. It would really help both me and him out, and yeah, he makes great artworks just like the one of Fleming levitating to the sky. So if you want to see more things like that, head to patreon.com/bham. And without any further ado, guys, I'll see you in a Hans side story next time. Goodbye.